Hi, everyone, and welcome, truly welcome, back to the Real English Podcast. I mean that. If this is your first time with us, hello, we're so glad you found this one. If you've been here before, thank you for coming back again, week after week. It genuinely means something to us. I'm Olivia.
And I'm David. And Olivia, before we go any further, I need everyone to know that you just ruined a fact I've used in at least 4 conversations.
I'm sorry.
I told my cousin that story at Christmas, with confidence, like I was the smartest person at the table.
Well, now you can tell her the real version, which is honestly more interesting.
See, this is the problem with you doing research before we record. You take away all my favorite fake facts.
One of us has to fact check around here.
That's fair. That's completely fair.
How was your weekend, by the way? We haven't even said hello properly.
Quiet, actually. I fixed a shelf that's been broken since March.
March?
Don't start.
I'm not saying anything.
You're saying a lot with your face right now.
Okay, fine. I'll let it go. Mostly because I have my own version of that shelf, which we'll get to.
Now I'm curious.
Patience. So today we're talking about dreams and goals, specifically how to talk about them in English, but also just how to think about them. Because I've been sitting with this topic for a few days now, and it's done something to me a little.
What do you mean?
I have a dream I haven't told many people about. It's been sitting in a drawer in my head for about 3 years.
Okay, now you have to tell me.
I will, later in the episode. I want to build up to it properly.
You're doing the thing where you make me wait.
I'm doing the thing where I make it worth the wait. There's a difference.
We'll see.
So here's what today actually is. It's an episode about the words we use for the things we want. Dreams, goals, ambitions, plans. In English, these words sound similar, but they carry completely different weight, and most learners use them like they're interchangeable. They're not.
I didn't even think about that until you mentioned it to me before we started recording.
Right? And that's the thing. A dream and a goal aren't the same size of idea. If you mix them up in a sentence, you're not making a grammar mistake. You're saying something slightly different than you meant.
Give me an example.
If I say, my goal is to speak fluent English, that sounds active, like there's a plan behind it. If I say, my dream is to speak fluent English, that sounds more like a feeling, a wish. Neither is wrong, but they land differently in someone's ear.
I've genuinely never separated those two in my head like that.
We're going to spend some time on that today. We're also going to get into some real research, including the truth about that fake Yale study, some newer research from Stanford that honestly surprised me, and a very uncomfortable moment about halfway through where I admit something I don't usually say out loud.
Now I'm curious about that too.
Good. Hold on to that.
You're stacking up a lot of things for me to hold on to in this episode.
That's the plan.
See, that's a goal, not a dream. You just used it correctly.
Look at you. Before we get into it, one small thing. If you're the kind of person who has a dream sitting in a drawer somewhere the way I did, just think about it for the next 50 minutes. Don't act on it yet. Just let it sit there while we talk. We'll come back to it. Okay, let's start with the actual language. In English, we have this cluster of words: dream, goal, wish, ambition, plan, aspiration, and most learners treat them as synonyms because dictionaries kind of too.
I mean, isn't a dream just a goal you haven't started yet?
That's actually a really good way to put it, and I think it's close to true. But there's a size difference too. A dream is usually big and a little vague. I want to live in another country. I want to write a book. I want to be my own boss. A goal is smaller and has an edge to it. It has a date or a number or a next step.
So, I want to visit Japan is a dream.
Right.
And I'm buying a plane ticket to Tokyo for March is a goal.
Exactly. The goal is what happens when the dream gets specific enough to argue with.
That's a good line. Did you prepare that?
I did prepare that, yes.
I knew it.
I stand by it, though. A dream is soft. It doesn't ask anything of you yet. A goal has teeth. It can fail. It can succeed. A dream just sort of exists.
Okay, here's a question. What about ambition? Where does that word live?
Ambition is interesting because in English, it has a slightly mixed reputation. If I say, she's ambitious, that can sound like a compliment or it can sound a little cold, depending on tone and context. It's the only one of these words that sometimes gets used as a criticism.
Really?
Think about how people use it in a job review. He's very ambitious doesn't always mean he's great. Sometimes it means watch out for him.
Huh. I never noticed that. In David's language, actually most languages I know, ambitious is basically only positive.
English has this weird discomfort with wanting things too openly. It shows up in the vocabulary. We admire drive, but we get a little suspicious of people who talk about it too directly.
That's a whole cultural thing hiding inside one word.
It usually is. That's actually one of my favorite things about language. The vocabulary a culture builds tells you what it's nervous about.
Okay, wait. We said we'd come back to something. What's your dream? The one in the drawer.
Not yet.
Olivia.
Later. I promise it's coming. Let's get through the fake study first, because it actually connects.
Fine, but I'm keeping track.
All right, so back to the beginning. The fake Yale study. Here's why it spread the way it did. It's a perfect story. Clean numbers, a clear moral, a surprising twist. 3% versus 97%. 10 times the money. It's the kind of thing that sounds true because it's satisfying, not because anyone checked it.
So who actually checked it?
A researcher named Gail Matthews, a psychology professor at Dominican University in California. She got curious about where the story came from, went looking for the original paper, and found absolutely nothing. No record it ever existed. So she decided to run the real experiment herself.
That's kind of amazing. Like, this famous study is fake, so I'll just go do it properly.
Right? She recruited over 250 people, split them into groups. One group just thought about their goals in their head. Another group wrote the goals down. Another group wrote the goals and also wrote specific actions they'd take. And the last group did all of that, plus sent a weekly update to a friend about their progress.
And?
The people who only thought about their goals, no writing at all, scored the lowest on actually achieving them. The group that wrote goals down, made action plans, and reported weekly to a friend scored almost double.
Almost double? From writing something down and telling one person.
That's it. No app, no fancy system, just paper and one honest conversation a week.
That's kind of humbling, actually. We always want the secret trick, and the answer is write it down and tell someone.
I know, it's not exciting, but it's real. And the fake Yale story never gave anyone something they could actually do differently on a Monday morning. Matthews' study did.
Okay, this is making me think about something. When I was maybe 20, I told exactly one person about a goal, and it's the only goal from that entire year I actually finished.
What was it?
I wanted to run a 10-kilometer race. I told my flatmate at the time, purely by accident. I think I just mentioned it while we were cooking. And then every week he'd ask me how the training was going. Just casually, not pushy. And I finished it. Every other goal I had that year, learning Spanish, saving money, I told nobody, and none of them happened.
See? That's the whole study in one small story.
I didn't even connect that until right now.
That's usually how it works with research like this. You hear the number and it doesn't land. Then you hear a story and it clicks.
Okay, I want to sit with that for a second because it's actually a little uncomfortable. How many things have I quietly decided to do and never told a single person?
Don't answer that out loud. We don't have time.
Fair.
We're going to come back to this idea of telling someone because there's a strange twist to it that most people don't expect. Some kinds of sharing your goal actually make you less likely to do it. We'll get there in a bit.
Wait, what?
Patience.
You do this every episode.
It works, though, doesn't it?
Yes. Annoyingly, yes.
Okay. Remember I said some kinds of sharing your goal actually work against you?
I've been waiting for this.
So there's a psychologist, Peter Gollwitzer, who's done a lot of work on this exact question, and his research points at something that feels backwards at first. If you announce a goal publicly, especially to a big audience, and people respond with approval, wow, good for you, that's amazing, something strange happens in your head. Part of you starts to feel like you've already done it.
Wait, from just the announcement?
From just the announcement. The praise gives you a small hit of identity. You get to feel, for a moment, like the person who does that thing before you've actually done any of the work. And that feeling can quietly drain the pressure that would have pushed you to act.
So the applause substitutes for the achievement.
In a way, yes. It's called a premature sense of completion. Your brain treats the social recognition as a kind of partial reward, and partial rewards can be surprisingly satisfying enough to lower your urgency.
Okay, but that seems to directly contradict the accountability study. Matthews found that telling someone made people almost twice as likely to succeed.
This is the part that took me a while to untangle, but I think the difference is exactly who you're telling and why. Matthew's group told one specific person and gave them a job. Check on me, ask me hard questions, hold me to this. Gollwitzer's research is about announcing something to a wide audience, mostly for the reaction. The likes, the, wow, that's so brave, with no actual follow-up built in.
So it's not don't tell people, it's don't tell people in a way that gives you the reward without the responsibility.
Exactly. One person with a real job to do, checking in on you, that's fuel. A crowd of people clapping once with nobody following up, that's actually closer to a finish line than a starting line, at least in how your brain processes it.
That's such a specific distinction, and it explains something about social media, honestly. All those New Year, New Me posts.
A lot of that energy gets spent in the posting itself. The likes come in, the identity feels confirmed, and then the actual Tuesday morning gym session doesn't carry the same charge anymore because some of the reward already happened on Sunday night.
I've absolutely done that. Posted about starting something and then quietly never mentioned it again.
Almost everyone has. It's not a character flaw, it's just how the reward system works. The trick, according to this research, is to be specific about the kind of telling you do. Tell someone who will ask you next week, not a crowd who will only react once.
One honest person over one big audience.
That's the twist. Okay, next piece. There's research out of Stanford from a professor who studies motivation about what happens in the middle of pursuing a goal. Not the beginning, not the finish. The middle.
The boring part.
Exactly, the boring part. Here's what they found. At the beginning of a goal, we're hungry for information. We want to hear how other people did it, what worked, what mistakes to avoid. Near the end, when we're close to finishing, we also like getting information because we're already feeling good and it just confirms we're winning.
Okay, so start and finish, we're curious. What about the middle?
The middle is where curiosity collapses. Right around the halfway point, people stop wanting new information about their own goal. Not because they don't need it, because they're unsure whether they can actually finish. And at that exact moment of uncertainty, they'd rather avoid finding out.
So the middle isn't just boring, it's when we actively start avoiding the truth about how we're doing.
That's the finding, yes. It's not laziness, it's a kind of self-protection. If you don't check, you can't be disappointed yet.
Oh, that explains something. I started a woodworking course last year, loved the first 2 weeks, told everyone about it. Then around week 5, I just stopped opening the app that tracked my progress. I told myself I was busy.
Were you busy?
A little, but mostly I think I just didn't want to see how far behind the plan I was.
That's exactly the pattern. You weren't avoiding the woodworking, you were avoiding the information about the woodworking.
That's such a strange, specific kind of avoidance.
It's very human, though. Nobody wants to check the scale after a rough week of eating. Nobody wants to open their bank app after a rough month of spending. The middle of any goal is where we go quiet, and going quiet is usually a sign we've actually hit the hardest part, not the easiest one.
So what do you do about it?
The Stanford researchers found something simple. If you build in a moment specifically to check your progress, on a schedule, before the fear kicks in, you're far more likely to keep going. You take the choice away from the scared version of yourself and give it to the planning version of yourself, the one who set the goal in the first place.
The planning version of me is a lot braver than the Wednesday at 9 p.m. version of me.
Isn't that true for basically everyone? Okay, I think it's time.
The dream in the drawer? Also, is this the shelf you mentioned at the start?
It is, actually. I was calling it a shelf so I wouldn't have to say the real thing yet.
That's a very Olivia move. Hide the big thing behind a small metaphor for 40 minutes.
Guilty. Okay, the dream in the drawer.
I've genuinely been waiting this whole episode.
For 3 years now, I've wanted to live somewhere else for a year. Not visit, live. Wake up there, do groceries there, have a bad day there. I always pictured a small town somewhere in the south of Portugal.
I didn't know this about you.
Almost nobody does. And here's the honest part. I've never told a single person about it before this exact moment, on a microphone in front of however many people are listening.
Why not your family, your friends?
I think if I say it out loud, it becomes real enough to fail. Right now, it just lives in my head as this perfect, safe idea. The second I tell someone, they might ask me when, and I don't have an answer to when.
That's honestly one of the more real things you've said on this podcast.
I know. It's a bit much for a podcast about English vocabulary, isn't it?
No, I think it's exactly the point, though. We've spent this whole episode talking about the difference between a dream and a goal, and you've just described live the exact moment a dream is scared to become a goal.
Yeah, that's actually exactly it.
What's stopping it from becoming a goal?
I think it's the checking in problem we just talked about. If I set a date, then there's a middle, and in the middle, there'll be a week where the flights are too expensive, or work gets complicated, or I lose my nerve, and I'll have to face whether I'm actually doing this, or whether I was just enjoying the idea of it.
For what it's worth, I'd ask you about it every week if you wanted me to.
Thank you. I might actually take you up on that.
I'm serious. Pick a rough date, tell me, I'll be annoying about it exactly the way my flatmate was annoying about the running.
Let's talk after we finish recording.
Deal?
Okay, that was more than I planned to share today.
I think that's the best kind of honest, though. The kind you didn't plan.
All right, before we get too deep in my personal life, there's one more idea I want to bring in, and it connects to something David mentioned earlier without even realizing it.
What did I say?
You'll see. Give it a few minutes. So there's a writer named James Clear. He wrote a book called Atomic Habits, and there's one line in there that changed how I think about all of this. He says, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems.
Say that again?
You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. Meaning the goal is the destination, but the system is the daily thing that actually gets you there or doesn't. If your system is weak, the goal doesn't save you.
Okay, wait, this connects to what you just said about Portugal. The goal is live there for a year, but the system would be, what, actually researching visas, saving a specific amount each month?
Exactly. Right now, I have a dream and zero system. That's why it hasn't moved in 3 years.
And earlier, when I mentioned the 10-kilometer race, my system was training 3 times a week and reporting to my flatmate. That's why it worked. The woodworking course, I had a goal, finish the course, but no actual system beyond feel motivated, which isn't a system at all.
That's it exactly. Motivation isn't a system. It comes and goes on its schedule, usually not yours.
So the metaphor here is almost like a goal is the destination pin on a map, but the system is the actual road. You could stare at the pin all day. It doesn't move you an inch.
I like that. The pin doesn't drive the car. The road does.
And most of us spend our time staring at the pin.
Because the pin feels good. The pin is the dream version. Beautiful, finished, no traffic. The road has potholes and wrong turns and days you don't want to drive.
This is making me want to actually build a road for Portugal with you.
Let's talk after recording. I mean it now.
I'm holding you to it. Okay, since we're already talking about Gallwitzer, there's actually a second thing he's known for, and I think it fits right here.
Go on.
So he studied something called implementation intentions. Basically a plan in the shape of, if this happens, then I'll do that. Not just, I'll exercise more, but if it's Tuesday at 7 in the morning, then I put on my running shoes before I open my phone.
That's oddly specific.
That's the whole point, though. The specificity is what makes it work. His research found that people who made if-then plans were dramatically more likely to actually follow through than people with the exact same goal but no specific trigger attached to it.
So the goal is I want to exercise more. The system is I run 3 times a week. And the if-then plan is the actual tripwire that gets you out of bed.
Right. It removes the decision. You're not standing there at 7 in the morning asking yourself, should I do this today? You already decided days ago, calmly, with a clear head. The 7 a.m. version of you just has to follow the instruction, not make the choice.
That connects to the road metaphor from earlier, too. If the system is the road, the if-then plan is almost like the painted line down the middle. It doesn't build the road, but it stops you drifting off it on a tired day.
I like that. So for your Portugal thing, what would the if-then plan even look like?
Oh, don't put me on the spot.
I'm absolutely putting you on the spot.
Okay, maybe something like, if it's the first Sunday of the month, then I spend 20 minutes looking at one practical piece of it. Visa rules one month, cost of living the next, flights after that.
That's genuinely a good one. Small, repeatable, no huge decision required each time.
I might actually write that down after this.
Please do. I will absolutely be asking.
If you're listening to this right now, on a walk or doing dishes or on your commute, think about one dream you have that's never become a goal. Not because you don't want it, but because you've never built the road for it.
You don't have to answer out loud, obviously, but just notice it.
Sometimes just noticing the gap between the dream and the road is the whole first step.
Okay, I want to bring something in here that I think complicates everything we've just said in a good way.
Go for it.
So there's a researcher, Angela Duckworth. She wrote a book called Grit, and her main idea is that success over the long run comes less from talent and more from a mix of passion and persistence over years, not weeks.
The famous grit idea, yeah.
Right, but here's the part people skip. Duckworth is also very clear that grit isn't the same as stubbornness. She actually talks about how gritty people are good at quitting the wrong things so they can stay committed to the right ones.
Wait, that feels almost contradictory to everything we just said about systems and follow-through.
It sounds contradictory, but I don't think it is. I think the skill isn't never quit. The skill is telling the difference between a goal that's hard because it matters and a goal that's hard because it was never really yours in the first place.
Give me an example.
Okay, so embarrassing one. I played piano from age 7 to about 14. My parents put me in lessons. I hated almost every single practice session, cried about it more than once if I'm honest.
Oh no!
And at 14, I quit. And everyone around me acted like I'd failed at something, like quitting was the weak choice. But looking back now, it wasn't my goal. It was my mom's goal for me, wearing my name.
That's such a specific way to put it, wearing my name.
That's exactly what it felt like, though. A goal in my handwriting, but someone else's idea underneath it.
So the piano thing, was that a good quit or a bad quit?
I think it was a good quit, honestly. What I regret isn't quitting piano. What I regret is that I never replaced it with anything of my own. I just had this open space where a goal used to be, and I never filled it with something that was actually mine.
That's the piece Duckworth would probably agree with. Grit doesn't mean grinding through everything forever. It means being honest about which goals are actually load-bearing in your life and which ones you're just carrying out of guilt or habit.
I like that phrase, load-bearing.
Some goals hold up the whole structure of who you're trying to become. Others are just decoration you inherited from somebody else.
Okay, that's going straight into my notes.
So, actually, David, has your empty space filled with something since then?
A little. I picked up guitar in my 20s, badly, but this time nobody was making me. That one's mine.
See, that's the whole idea in one small story again.
We keep doing that today.
I think that's what makes this topic different from a grammar lesson. Every idea we bring up, we've both actually lived through it in some small way. Okay, one more research piece, and then I promise we're getting into vocabulary, because I know some of you came here for the English, and we've been very emotional for the last 20 minutes.
Fair warning to everyone, apparently.
So, there's a study published in the Journal of Abnormal Psychology that followed more than 3,000 people in the United States over 18 years. 18 years, which is a huge amount of time for a study like this.
That's basically watching someone grow up.
Pretty much. And what they measured was goal persistence, meaning how much someone kept working toward their goals even when things got hard, along with general optimism and something called self-mastery, which is basically your belief that you're capable of doing the thing you set out to do.
And what did they find?
The people who scored higher on persistence and optimism at the start of the study had noticeably lower rates of anxiety, depression, and panic disorders across the following 18 years.
So chasing goals is actually connected to mental health, not just achievement.
That's the finding, and I think it fits with everything else we've talked about today. A dream that never becomes a goal doesn't just sit there quietly. It sits there and it asks you, every so often, why you never did anything about it. That question, asked enough times over enough years, isn't good for anyone.
That's a slightly heavier way to think about my piano thing, or your Portugal thing.
It is, but I don't think it means every dream has to become a goal immediately. I think it means the dreams that matter most to you deserve at least one honest attempt at becoming a plan, even a small, badly organized one, rather than staying frozen in that someday place forever.
Someday is a dangerous word.
It might be the most dangerous word in this entire episode. There's one more language piece before we get to the word tour, and I think it's genuinely useful for anyone learning English, not just for vocabulary reasons.
Go on.
English isn't one culture. It's dozens of them wearing the same grammar, and the way people talk about their dreams changes a lot depending on which English you're standing in.
What do you mean exactly?
Think about American English versus British English, just as one example. In a lot of American contexts, saying, "My goal is to become a millionaire by 40," out loud at a dinner table is completely normal, maybe even admired.
Right. And in British English?
Say that at a British dinner table and you'll feel the temperature drop a few degrees. There's a much stronger instinct toward understatement. People might have exactly the same ambition, but they'll dress it in something smaller. "I wouldn't mind doing all right for myself" can quietly mean, "I am extremely determined to succeed."
That's fascinating, because if you're learning English from American shows and then you land in London talking about your 5-year plan with total confidence, you might get a strange reaction.
You might come across as a little much, even though you've done nothing wrong grammatically. The vocabulary was correct, the volume was wrong.
So this isn't really about English at all. It's about reading the room in whatever version of English you're in.
Exactly. And that's true beyond just American and British, too. Australian English tends to like self-deprecation mixed in, so ambition often gets a joke attached to it, almost as protection. "I'm probably being ridiculous, but I want to open my own restaurant one day." The joke softens the wanting.
I do that constantly, actually. I almost never say a goal without a joke wrapped around it.
I noticed that about you years ago.
Is that a compliment or an observation?
Just an observation. For now.
Fair enough.
The point for anyone learning English is this. Don't just learn the vocabulary of ambition. Notice the volume other people around you are using and match it a little, at least until you understand the room. You can always turn the volume up later once you know the culture.
That's a really practical note buried inside a fairly abstract topic.
Those are usually my favorite kind.
Can I bring in one more thing before the word tour? It's less research, more just something I've noticed.
Go ahead.
A goal without a deadline behaves almost exactly like a dream. It just floats. And I think that's actually the real difference between the two words, more than size or feeling. A dream has no due date by definition. A goal without one is basically a dream wearing a costume.
That's a sharp way to put it. Costume, not disguise, because it's not even hiding well.
Right, everyone can tell. "I'm going to learn Italian with no time frame" is just a nice sentence. "I'm going to have a basic conversation in Italian by the end of the year" is a completely different animal, even though half the words are the same.
This connects to something economists call the deadline effect, or it's related to an old idea, Parkinson's law, that work expands to fill the time you give it. No deadline means infinite time, and infinite time has a strange way of turning into never.
So a deadline isn't a punishment. It's almost a gift. It's the thing that turns someday into an actual Tuesday.
I like that phrasing. It turns someday into a Tuesday.
So going back to your Portugal thing one more time, sorry.
It's fine. Go ahead.
What if the goal isn't move to Portugal at all yet? What if the actual goal, the first one, is pick the year by a specific date, something small enough that it doesn't feel like the whole mountain?
That's uncomfortably reasonable.
I have my moments.
Okay, I'll pick the year by the end of this month. That's the deal.
I'm writing that down, literally right now, on the Notes app.
Please don't make this worse for me.
Too late?
Okay, David, we used some interesting words today. Want to slow down and walk through a few of them?
Let's do it.
First one, aspiration.
Aspiration.
It means a strong hope or ambition to achieve something, usually something that takes a long time and a lot of effort. It's a slightly more formal cousin of dream.
Her aspiration was to become a surgeon by 30. Owning a small farm has always been one of his aspirations.
Nice. Next one, persistence.
Persistence.
Continuing to try to do something even when it's difficult or people tell you to stop.
Her persistence finally paid off after 3 rejected applications. You need a lot of persistence to learn an instrument as an adult.
Good. Fourth, self-mastery.
Self-mastery. This one's newer to me.
It's your belief in your own ability to control your actions and reach a goal. Less about skill, more about trust in yourself.
He didn't have much self-mastery around food, but he was working on it. Learning to say no took real self-mastery for me.
Good. Fifth, load-bearing. We use this in a slightly unusual way today.
I stole that one, so I should probably explain it.
Go for it.
Normally, it describes a wall in a building that holds up the structure. If you remove it, things collapse. Today, we used it for a goal that's actually essential to who you are versus one that's just there for show.
Is this goal load-bearing for you, or is it just something you think you should want? That's basically the whole episode in one sentence.
That's a great one, and it leads nicely into mine. Number 6, tripwire, though I'm using it a little loosely from what I said earlier.
Go for it.
A tripwire is normally a wire that sets off an alarm or a trap when someone walks into it. Here we used it for that if this, then that plan, the small trigger that gets you moving without a decision.
I set a tripwire for myself. If I skip breakfast, I go for a walk instead. Okay, that's a slightly unusual example, but it works.
It works.
Last one, number 7, someday.
Oh, that's a real word, not a fancy one.
Exactly, and that's why it's dangerous. It's a vague point in the future with no actual date attached, and English lets you hide entire decades inside it. I'll do it someday. Sounds like a plan, but it's really just a nicer way of saying not now and maybe not ever.
Someday I'll learn to sail, which, let's be honest, probably means never.
Harsh, but probably accurate.
Should we stop there? 7 feels like a good number today.
7's good. Any more and people's heads start spinning. All right, quick one before we land the plane. Let's take a few learner-level sentences about dreams and goals and make them sound more like what a native speaker would actually say.
I like this segment.
A learner might say, I have a dream to go to Japan.
We understand exactly what you mean, but a more natural way is, I've always dreamed of going to Japan, or even simpler, going to Japan has always been one of my dreams.
A learner might say, my goal is very difficult, but I will not give up it.
Close, but a natural version is, my goal is really difficult, but I'm not giving up on it. Small preposition, big difference.
A learner might say, I want to make my dream become true.
A native speaker would usually say, I want to make my dream come true. Come, not become. It's one of those phrases that's just frozen in English, exactly as it is.
A learner might say, I have many goals, but I don't achieve nothing.
Here we'd say, I have a lot of goals, but I haven't achieved any of them yet. Double negatives sneak in from other languages a lot, and English really doesn't like 2 negatives in one sentence.
Last one. A learner might say, she is very ambitious. This is a compliment.
You'd usually just let the sentence do the work. She's incredibly ambitious, and depending on your tone, people will understand whether you mean it warmly or not. You don't need to explain the compliment. English does that with tone, not extra words.
One more. A learner might say, I have a dream since I am child.
A natural version would be, I've had this dream since I was a child, or this has been my dream since childhood. The tense shift trips a lot of people up, but since almost always wants that present perfect. I've had, not the simple present.
Good round.
Thanks, I felt useful for once.
You're useful every episode.
Debatable, but I'll take it today.
Okay, so where does this leave us?
Well, we started with a fake study and ended up with your secret dream about Portugal and my dead piano career.
When you put it that way.
I think what actually stays with me is the difference between the 2 words we started with, dream and goal. A dream is allowed to just exist, quietly, and that's fine. Not everything needs a deadline. But if a dream keeps returning year after year the way yours has for 3 years, that's the dream telling you it wants to become something with an actual road under it.
I think that's exactly right. And I think the piece I'll carry with me is the accountability thing. Not because it's clever research, but because it's so simple it's almost embarrassing. Tell one person. That's basically the whole trick.
I'm that one person now, by the way, for Portugal.
I know. I haven't forgotten.
I'm going to actually ask you about it, not just today, in a month, in 3 months.
I'm a little scared of that, honestly.
Good. That probably means it's load-bearing.
I keep coming back to that word today, load-bearing.
It's a good filter, honestly, for goals, for relationships, for jobs even. If you took it out of your life right now, would something structural actually shift, or would you barely notice it was gone?
Portugal would shift something. I know that much now, even if I didn't fully admit it to myself before today.
And piano wouldn't have, looking back, but the guitar would now.
See, that's such a strange kind of clarity to land on by the end of an episode that started as a grammar lesson.
I don't think it's really about grammar anymore, is it?
No, I don't think it ever fully was. Okay, that's a good line to land on.
I thought so too.
So here's a real question for whoever's listening, not a rhetorical one. What's the one dream you've never told anyone about? And what would it cost you, really, to say it out loud to just one person this week?
You don't need an audience. You don't need a plan yet either. Just one honest sentence to one person you trust.
That's genuinely where I'm going to leave it today. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. I know this one went a little longer and a little deeper than usual.
In a good way, I think.
I hope so. If you got something out of today, even just the come true, not become true thing, share this with someone who's sitting on a dream of their own. Sometimes an episode does the job a hard conversation can't.
And if you want, tell us in the comments what your dream is. We actually read them, and it might end up giving one of us the push we need too.
This was the Real English Podcast. I'm Olivia.
And I'm David. Take care of yourselves, be a little braver than usual this week, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.